Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. Our topic for today is oral babies. So thank you for joining us. I'm just going to add Divya since it's already 12. I hope you're enjoying our book recommendation series as well, and our Friday introductions, wherein we introduce some of our friends, our partners, some of the brands we love. Hi, everyone. Right. Hi, Sonia. I am just waiting for Divya to join. All right, here she is. Hi, Aswati. Hi, Divya.
Hi, new place.
Congratulations for the new office.
It's the same office back in 2 years. Anyways, here we are.
Awesome. Looks good.
Still setting it up.
Yeah, great. So our topic for Talking Tuesday is oral baby, and as you know, it's in continuation to the series that we are doing, Know Your Baby. Divya and I had a bit of confusion yesterday whether we're doing oral baby or cry baby, but anyways, we continue with oral baby.
I think it's smart to keep the crying baby in the end.
True.
Yeah. So, good afternoon and welcome everybody to Talking Tuesday. And when we write oral baby, what exactly do we mean as we're talking about baby in these different ways? You're going to hear the sleep baby, the social baby, the transitioning baby. So these are all the ways that this baby expresses. And we want to look at each of these expressions so that we can understand the baby a little bit better. So each of these expressions is actually a communication with the parent, which is telling the parent that this is what I want, this is what I need, this is how I'm designed, this is what works for me. And when we look at these different pathways, so when I say oral baby, most people would jump to breastfeeding, or we could have said breastfeeding, but the point we want to really emphasize today is that there is more going on around the baby's mouth than just putting food inside. And all of the things that are happening are equally important, well, as important as food is, because the baby is in a rapid developmental stage. So I'm going to draw our attention, Tanvi, to a time when we were talking about the awakening of senses. You remember? And
Yes.
around the mouth, we had said taste and gustatory, which is the food aspect. But we had also talked about licking, sucking. We had talked about exploration with the mouth. And so the baby starts these explorations really early in the womb. And we have to wonder why. Why does the baby start sucking and swallowing almost by 15 to 16 weeks? Both the reflexes are online, and the baby is constantly swallowing, sucking. So swallowing, you can still say that he's swallowing the amniotic fluid, and that's nutritive in nature. But sucking, why is the baby sucking? And you'll find that they're sucking their hands, sometimes their toes. And if you have a newborn, you know babies suck at anything. And we've made a very linear explanation that if the baby is sucking, then the baby is hungry. And I'm just going to take a break from the oral baby because this is really a point that we come across as doulas every other day, many times. If the baby is sucking his hand, then the baby is hungry. And there's a big leap of logic that says, I mustn't be making enough milk. Or stick something in the baby's mouth and feed him till he passes out. And because he passes out, We say, oh yeah, he was hungry, and therefore we jump right back to the same conclusion, I'm not making enough milk. And this has caused anxiety to mothers. It has taken their valuable attention away from the bonding and enjoying of their children. And it has created a whole paradigm of failing breastfeeding mothers. That's one part of it. The other part of breastfeeding that I do want to say, because it is an oral baby and food is an intake, is that somehow when we talked about benefits of breastfeeding, we, for some reason, just shrunk them to breast milk. And then in swooped all the other mechanisms, whether it is bottles, whether it's pumps, that say, oh, if only breast milk is valuable to this baby, then let's just extract the milk and give it to the baby. Not understanding that the oral pathway of breastfeeding, it's feeding from the breast, fulfills all the other needs that the oral pathway puts up. So breastfeeding is nature's simplification of every developmental need of the baby. And that is mind-boggling because it's food. It's food that is specific to that baby. It is food that is specific to that baby at that time of development, that time of the day, that time of the baby's health. And we know that babies can be anything between 2 kilos and 4 kilos or 5 kilos and growing. So we can't really say that a 2-kilo baby has the same nutritional need as a 3-month-old or 6-kilo baby. Can we say that? So it's very specific. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is the movement of the jaw in the motion of the suckling, which involves the tongue, the larynx, the muscles around the cheeks. And how does that figure out in development? And that's the oral pathway. Because we've seen from, our in utero talks that everything the baby is doing is either wiring the brain and enhancing the function or refining the function, or it is practice for another activity that they will do later.
Right.
So why would this not be true in the high developmental area of early infancy or even through childhood? As the baby's growth will slow down, which means basically as our growth slows down, it basically means that our systems are quite well set. So the language you can learn in childhood, that may be far more difficult if you try and learn it when you are 40, a new language. Because that the developing pathways need more stimulus. The more stimulus you give them, the better they behave. So the oral pathway is not only the pathway to food that is poured down the baby's mouth, but that breastfeeding activity simply ensures mother and baby are together many times a day. What message would that send to the baby? The textures inside the mouth, we talked about that when we were talking in utero, that baby explores. So think of their in utero life with that cramped space. Were the hands? In very close proximity to the mouth. Because babies were rolled over like this. And that licking, sucking activity could have been done very easily with their own hands.
Right.
Now we have ultrasounds that show that when babies, especially male babies, are sucking, they may even have erection in the womb. And just to explain that, that is a pleasurable activity. So for babies, sucking is pleasure. Now you cannot obtain pleasure unless you feel safe and secure. So it is precursor to the pleasure is sucking is a soothing mechanism. It is a mechanism that babies have that help them soothe themselves. So our nerves that go into this area and the tongue and the throat are somehow sending signal to our brain, we are okay. I can manage this. So if we were to take a short pause and think, what are the things that help us manage stress? For most people, it could be eating. Same pathway. For many people, it could be talking to somebody. Same pathway. A lot of people will, when they are nervous, click their tongue. Their mouth will, when they relax, their mouth will salivate and they will swallow. But when they are stressed, their mouth will get dry. So a lot of our stress management happens around the oral area. And so one of the pathways, the oral pathway is also the ability to self-soothe. And all babies need a lot of non-nutritive sucking. Non-nutritive sucking means no food, sucking without the need for food. And if you want to truly understand that and soothing mechanism, think of a culture that promotes pacifiers. Pacifiers, and we'll get into it in a minute, is not good for your baby, but think of a culture that uses pacifiers. The name itself is called soother or pacifier. What does
Correct.
that mean? What do you do when you put it in the baby's mouth? What does the baby do? He sucks at it. Does it get food? None at all. But the non-nutritive action of sucking offers value to the baby, especially to soothe them or pacify them. So, if I bring your attention here, you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. That for babies, sucking becomes a soothing mechanism. So if your baby's just had food or has had a feed and starts to suck, does that always mean food? Or does that mean this baby is using a self-soothing mechanism? Now, if we just stay with that and allow them to do it, you will find that some babies, as their nervous system grows and they have good or lesser stress levels, so better system, lesser debit, more credit, they are able to self-soothe. And such babies might use this mechanism to self-soothe to sleep. Now, at one point, we are saying that they are getting up and they're not going back to sleep because they have no mechanism of soothing. But as they develop their mechanism of soothing, we keep taking it out of their hands, their hand out of their mouth. So, are we truly allowing them to self-soothe, learn what self-regulation is, look, explore their own boundaries on self-regulation, and then offer the support from outside? Or are we saying, oh, you can't use the pathway nature has given you to self-soothe, but I need you to sleep through the night because you are an independent and disciplined child? And it makes no sense to the baby. So one of the mechanisms is that non-nutritive sucking. Now, babies who breastfeed at the mother's breast will shift between nutritive and non-nutritive sucking. And moms know that because they see the way the baby is sucking and swallowing. It's a different mechanism. What does that non-nutritive sucking do at the breast? It has a very enhanced quality because now when they're doing the non-nutritive sucking, there is still stimulus to the mother's breast, so it helps increase her breast, milk supply. On the other hand, the quality of presence of the mother and the baby coming back together is one layer of safety on which the baby is practicing self-soothing. How would that experience then grow the brain and the capacity to self-soothe versus a baby who is never regulated by an adult? So, it's like saying, you're doing a little bit of the work, I'm doing some of the work. Let's see if I help you, how far you can jump, or how high you can go, or how much you can do this. And then we will do it again in 2 hours, and then again in 3 hours, and then again in an hour and a half. And we will continue to practice till you can color between the lines. I've used this analogy before, and I'm going to use it again. It's practice. The more you do something, the more the brain wires. The more the foundation, repetitive behavior makes foundations. So breastfeeding, therefore, is the singular pathway for that oral baby, but hand explorations. So when we swaddle them, when we hold them close, can we bring their hands close? In the womb, because it's a limited space, the hand comes very close. But outside, suddenly the hands are flailing. So when we support that and we allow that oral exploration, you find that the babies can begin to grow the hand-mouth coordination better. How would that help later? If they have a good hand-mouth coordination, so they can bring their hands to their mouth, and then the more they do it, the better they get, and also self-soothing mechanisms. And that's one of the things. also because of the oral pathway and the need for nutrition, in fact, the need for communicating or looking at the world with their mouth, they have something called a rooting reflex. And so if you see a hungry baby and you touch them, they're going to turn and go for it. And you can use it all around the mouth to support a good latch. So you use their oral pathway and understanding of that oral pathway to enhance breastfeeding so that transference of milk is good. We use breastfeeding as a mechanism of development at the neck, this movement, the neck curve, the jaw, the expansion of the jaw. Because the jaw is with the temporals, it allows that brain cavity to also have a good movement. So you have to accommodate the brain, you have to make a curve in your neck, you have to grow your jaw. It allows your mouth to open. Breastfeeding, if you look at it from the perspective of bodily growth, psychological growth, immunity growth, everything it needs. But unfortunately, we have cut it down to just food. We are probably obsessed with food. And for the baby, we are obsessed with filling their tummies and making them sleep. Whoever learned anything in the world by sleeping? It is the interaction. So as the mother holds the baby latches. We know that the baby latches on their own right in the beginning because the taste buds and the nose, the smell buds are connected. Once they've done it themselves, then the latch becomes easier. Once they've done it, then the mother is relaxed because she knows breastfeeding is happening. As the mother relaxes, her heart rate relaxes, it allows the baby a co-regulation. As he's co-regulating and non-nutritive sucking is supporting breastfeeding, but also layering baby's mechanisms of self-regulating. As he's doing that, there is a development in his the mouth, the jaw. It's really hard to understand how many pieces of jigsaw puzzle are there. And we seem to only pick out a few. And then because we've taken that out of the picture, out of context, the rest of the picture gets distorted. So all of those things that go into an oral pathway. So here's what you can do. You can breastfeed. You can use the rooting reflex to get a good latch. You can be in a regulated space so that the baby enjoys the breastfeeding experience. You can also begin to talk to the baby or, have a conversation or have a good touch around the baby as the baby looks. If it's in that state, we talked about active alert, quiet alert, and then can make eye contact. It's a very rewarding period for both. And while keeping the baby in a position where they're sleeping, you can have good access to their hands. We can offer their hands or sucking mechanisms to help them regulate. And also when that baby is really crying, we can offer our own finger as a regulatory mechanism to see whether that will help them settle a little bit and not look at all oral activity as food. In fact, there is a very rich way of looking at, or a very correct way, or a very great way of knowing your baby's hunger cues, and then you can respond to those. In fact, responsive mothers will grow babies who are both responsive and confident and settled, not overfed babies just because you're anxious and everybody's putting pressure on you. And so the oral pathway becomes one of the ways of understanding breastfeeding, appreciating it, enhancing it, and offering your baby both a foundation of safety and a self-regulation mechanism. And that's our oral
Great.
baby.
So, Divya, you mentioned about pacifiers and soothers. So, can you elaborate more as
I
to
didn't
why
want
they
to,
should
but I
be?
had to give an example. So, we want to, there may be times where you just want the baby to soothe. But I think the bigger question as parents, we should be concerned with, why does my baby need so much soothing? And if that is true, what can I do so that the self-regulatory mechanism is enhanced rather than needs an outside aid? And that's the part of where we want to look at the baby's development or their story or what they may need. But on the other hand, pacifiers, because they're silicone and they're standard sized, when they push into the mouth, they actually push against the soft palate, which is still forming, which is still pliable, which is still growing. In fact, any kind of silicone nipples do that. And when they push against that, they actually push the palate upwards, which then eats into the nasal cavity. And that's where the growth begins, or that's where the development begins. And when that happens, we might see later breathing issues, apnea, snoring, so many other things might come with that. As the oral cavity changes, so does the development of the nasal and all the sciences and everything that works with it changes. Therefore, pacifiers, that would be one reason. The other reason could be as your baby gets understand. Did you lose me for a minute?
Yes, I did.
So that's the understanding of the pacifier. What is the function of it? Why does my baby need it? And what can I do to completely eliminate their need for sucking? So you'd find that babies who are on the breast, who are breastfed, not breast milk fed, but breastfed, have lesser need for pacifying because a lot of their non-nutritive sucking is done in a environment that is safe, that feels like, yeah, I can learn this. This is a skill I can learn. And they learn it. Some of them will then suck. Some babies may have higher need for self-soothing. Then that should be our inquiry. Why does this baby need more? Of course, then we can look back into what happened earlier. What was, it could be personality, but it could be experience. How can we support them with that? So it's not a simplistic thing. But when we use a pacifier, we are actually putting a band-aid and shutting the baby up. It's not really solving. So think if there is something that is the need of the baby in that moment for that sucking and soothing, and we haven't met it, that would be the foundation of their psychological development. Why would we not want to work on that rather than shut the symptom down? So a lot of conveniences are about shutting the symptom down. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. Painkillers are one of those. You have pain, and instead of exploring why this part is sending out a signal to you, I mean, if there's a direct injury, it makes sense. There's tissue damage, let's manage the pain, and a painkiller is great. But if you have chronic pain and you're having painkillers, you're still having pain, and you've not really inquired, which means your body showed you a sign, hey, it's hurting, you shut down that sound. It's not hurting anymore because I gave you a painkiller. You haven't yet looked at the cause. And we're doing exactly the same with a pacifier with a baby. So big no-no, because oral cavity gets, the developmental issues of the oral cavity arise when we put pacifiers in baby's mouth.
Okay. So a lot of women also use nipple shield. Is that the same?
Similar. So with nipple shield, there comes one more thing, no? When we put a nipple shield, we have put a barrier, a silicone barrier between the sensitivity of the breast and the mouth of the baby. Now that's a
Right.
pathway of talking. Oral pathway is right there, which is either
Correct.
saliva, whether it's the pressure, whether it's all of that. Once we've done that, the stimulus of I am at the breast, make milk, this is what I want, diminishes. So over a period of time, women who've used nipple shield will say that I have had, my milk supply has dropped. So, think of baby at the breast, face-to-face interaction, joyful interaction, nipple shield, text message, something is lost.
Right.
And so
Okay.
that
That
can't
makes
be
sense.
any aid for parenting cannot be your first step. Because think of it this way, if we wouldn't be able to parent and look after our children without that aid, then you and I, तो बहुत दूर की बात है, generations before we would have not survived because the aid was not there. And I
True.
have to say this, everything you need to be a parent is already encoded, pre-programmed in you. But nobody said that it is quick, that it is easy. And there is a so I just want to really clarify this, because this also comes up many times, that just because it needs hard work doesn't mean that it's not doable, right? A lot of things we do in life take a lot of our time and effort, and we want to give it the time. Like if you enjoy baking, a good cake takes a lot of effort. A good bread takes a lot of effort. You ferment it, you turn it over many times. But you do it, no? Do you always take the easy way out? Now, if a bread can take that much time, how much time should a human being take? That has
Correct.
always been my inquiry. If a construction project takes so much effort, how much should a human project take? And then, of course, it is your choice. So this is not like a choice whether I want to do it or not, but that is also a choice. But given the right information, I think most parents will make good choices for their children, because the need to look after your child and protect your child is also pre-programmed into our DNA. It's just that I think it's more misinformed, and the messaging around parenthood has become so skewed that just a tiny bit of, like, oh, pause and think about this, can set people on the right path. And that's my
Right.
experience with working with moms and babies and families.
Great. Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. In fact, at times we get a lot of questions around fussiness of the baby. Why does the baby want to come on the breast like almost for 20
For
minutes, 30
soothing.
minutes?
Soothing.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying. So now we have the
But
answer.
think what's happening. The baby's coming on the breast. The mother is getting more and more anxious,
Anxious.
right? And everybody around her is putting her down. So baby's nervous system of the baby is a hitchhiker on the mother's nervous system. If you remember this, you will never make a mistake again. The baby's nervous system hitchhikes on the mother's nervous system. What does the mother's nervous system say? Anxious, irritated, frustrated, a little bit low, not quite underconfident. What kind of signal is that going to give to the baby? Well, it might not say my mother is anxious, but it say, oh, I think the world is coming to an end because this one can control her mind. And what would be the soothing mechanism for that baby whose world is coming apart? Sucking. So the baby is going to cry louder, fuss more, want more of the mother, more of the breast. But instead of meeting a soothing mechanism, is now being escalated. So same people will say, you always ask for the breast, always, but when he goes to the father or to the nanny or the daddy or the bua, the baby keeps quiet. Why? Because the baby's nervous system now meets an adult who's not feeling the pressure of I don't have enough milk.
Correct.
And immediately, because he wasn't hungry to begin with. He was just saying, please tell me we are safe. Please tell me we are safe. Please tell me we are safe. And then say, oh baby, what happened? Why are you crying? Your mama not giving you milk. But look at my voice. Oh, we are safe. Okay, let's stop crying.
Yeah.
They might even go off to sleep in that person's arms.
Correct.
And we misunderstood their oral activity and their crying or their need for that suck. And so we want to give them food, we want to give them safety, we want to give them pleasure. They also get pleasure. There's also a very strange notion in our society that unless you haven't killed yourself, it's not worth it. But I'd like to believe that parenting is one of the most joyful, pleasurable things you could do.
Yeah.
And so the baby is also designed to receive pleasure. That is our pursuit in life. Everybody is seeking happiness. But when there are simple opportunities of pleasure and happiness, we want to deny ourselves that. So the oral pathway is also a pleasure pathway. Food is pleasure for a lot of people.
Correct.
It's also stress.
Awesome. So that was a great talk. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah. I do too.
Yeah.
And talking is
So,
also an oral pathway.
oral pathway, absolutely.
Same
And
muscles.
correct. So great. Thank you so much, everyone, for our Talking Tuesday, for joining our Talking Tuesday today. And we'll be back next week
With
with
another pathway of the baby.
another pathway, which is
Not crying. We'll save
yeah,
that for the end.
we'll save that for the end. Yeah, so we'll announce that through our Insta handle. And I hope you're enjoying our book recommendation series, which we're doing on Sundays. And we are also introducing few of our friends, partners, brands on Fridays. So I hope you're
We've
enjoying
also we've
that.
also launched our program. Do you want to talk a minute about that?
Yes, absolutely. So we have recently launched a program called Sentient Baby, wherein we're talking about baby being a conscious being in the womb. So in anybody who's interested in knowing more about that aspect can reach out to us. We have opened the program to a few of our reviewers, so they're reviewing our content, all of that right now. So, any one of you would be interested in knowing more, we'll be more than happy to, open it up for you.
Thank
And
you.
we are in the process of continuously adding more, courses. So you'll hear more from us in the next 1 month, wherein we'll be adding more content. So thank you so much for joining us today. Have
Thank
a
you.
great day ahead and a good week. See you. Bye bye.